Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. We are from 5C Sociolinguistics Unsika English Education Department. So here we are going to interview our interviewee today, which is Mr. Riyandi Adityan Putra from University Pertiwi. Yes, sir, Mr. Okay. So the topic for today's interview is about lingua franca. Before we move into the questions, we would like to introduce ourselves first. So I will ask you a question. My name is Fikri Bayaki, and for the notes will be taken from my friends, my two friends. Please introduce yourself. I think you're still on mute, Linus.
My name is Linesha Vanita.
And my name is Fadila Nisa.
Okay, thank you, Linus and Fadila. So our interview today is Mr. Riyandi Adityan Putra. Could you tell me about yourself, Mr. Adit?
Okay, hello, my name is Indi Adityan Putra. I am from English Literature Study Program, Pertiwi University, Jakarta. So thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate your participation in today's interview. So, Mr., this is about lingua franca. So, first question is, how well do you know the lingua franca, and based on your understanding?
Okay, let me answer the question. So in my understanding, lingua franca is like, what is it? A common language between people who speak different language. So it's more like business language. For example, English. So English is a common lingua franca when people all over the world doing business. I think that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, move on to the next question. How do you think, how significant do you believe a particular society's lingua franca to be as a tool for communication? So how significant do you believe?
I think it's very significant because lingua franca is developed from a popular or very common language between member of society. So I think it's very it's significant for particular society lingua franca to be the main tool for the communication.
Okay, so move on to the next question. When do you typically use a lingua franca for communication? So like, in what situation you usually use this lingua franca? For example, like English or bahasa.
Okay, I usually use lingua franca with English while I'm doing my job because I meet some people from different country. So the common language or the lingua franca between me and my customer is English. So yeah, it's a professional language. I don't use English. I don't speak English very often in my daily life because I live in what is it? I live between amongst the locals in Jakarta. So yeah, they don't usually speak English. But when I go to my office, I will usually speak in English, okay, for the lingua franca.
So you usually use the lingua franca in work environment.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, move on to the next question. This is what the awareness or the advantages. So, are you aware of the advantages of communicating in the lingua franca other than like other languages?
Yes, I'm aware of that. I mean, uh, if for apa ya, I mean for people all over the world, it very helping if they master the lingua franca. uh, for the if for example English, because communication is very important, yeah, for the society, for the human, for the interaction, social interaction, for the business interaction. And the advantages is we can transfer the knowledge, we can transfer culture, we can doing cultural exchange, and then we can learn from each other society by speaking with lingua franca. We don't have to learn their languages if both of the society speak the same lingua franca. So I think it helps us to gain more knowledge and to help us to gain more connection from people all over the world. I think that's all.
Okay, so the advantages, in your opinion, is like it can increase our knowledge from other people and make connection even if we don't speak their language. Okay, moved on to another question. Now, do you think our native language, which mean like Bahasa Indonesia or other like Sundanese, etc., will be left behind if the lingua franca, for example, like English, is used more and more as a bridge language?
I don't think Indonesia will be left behind, because yeah, even the speakers of Indonesian is less than English speaker, but our language is being studied in another country. So, and there are many foreigners love to learn Indonesian language also. So I think our language will not going extinct, especially if our nation is very, what is it? It's bigger than most of the country. We are the fourth, yeah, the fourth bigger populated country. And I don't know the exact number, but with uh, the position of being the fourth most populated country, I think our language is pretty much popular, but not as popular as English. Maybe because Indonesian very ambiguous language, and English is very straightforward language. So I think, yeah, that's why English is used more to be as lingua franca than other language, especially for our native language in Indonesia. Yeah, Indonesian language, yeah, Indonesian.
So you think the changes are small for the like native language to be left behind? So okay, I understand. So next question is still about uh, the native language. So language changes are a sign of decline, specifically a shift in a meaning, a change in meaning or the presence of new words so that the original lingua franca will be shifted. So language changes like this, do you believe this is a weakness for the lingua franca? So like, when people are more using the lingua franca, the language will be like changes. So because like many people from other countries or other society use it as one. So maybe like the language will be like changed. So do you believe this is a weakness for the lingua franca?
Um, language is very dynamic, and our native language is also absorb words from another language like English, Dutch, uh, Malayu, and in Arab. I think it's not because of the history. The history of the what is it? How Indonesian language is being shifted in the past. I think that's not. I don't see that as a weakness or disadvantages of lingua franca, but I think it's more like the dynamic, the changes of the Indonesian language because as you can see, there are so many new words uh, in KBBI absorbed into the absorb from other language and then put into KBBI. Like, for example, like oppa from Korean. I think oppa is already put in KBBI, and I think that is. Korean is not a lingua franca for us, but there's also so many English words, yeah, and then being absorbed and then put into our big dictionary, and I think I see that as advantageous regardless because it helps our language to develop and follow the trend and yeah, more relevant to the recent issue because we can modify the language because our language is uh, like that, like absorb new words and then kita modifikasi and then the linguists or see the trend in the society and then the new word is being modified into our own words and then get popular among the people among Indonesian people and then because of the popular the words finally get listed in KBBI. I think I see that as an advantages from we get from lingua franca. It helps our language to be developed and follow the trend and being more relevant for the current issue. I think that's all.
That is really a good explanation. So you see the language changes in the lingua franca as advantages rather than weakness uh, because of the dynamic of the language. Okay, let's move on to other question. So it's about the English. So the next question is about English. Is that nowadays English as a lingua franca uh, is widespread all over the world. So one of which is, of course, Indonesia, because of the globalization. We use also English as lingua franca from other countries like Japan, anywhere in the world. So we use English as a form of communication. So do you think that is a weakness for the language in our country?
All right. Yeah. My answer will be the same from the previous question. I think no. I think English is not make our Indonesian become weaker. Yeah. I mean it for the contrary, it will make the language stronger because yeah, as I can like I said before that our language is absorb an absorb language because our language is absorb a very many popular words from another language and then uh, it gets modified and then finally put into KBBI. So I think it's not the weaknesses, it's not a weaknesses for the language in our country, but it will what is it? It will enrich the language with the new words, with the more relevant new vocabularies. And yeah, I think that's all for the answer from me.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. So our last questions is like, you see, previous question as not a problem of the lingua franca, but rather an advantages of lingua franca, like specifically for the lingua franca. So I think uh, for the next question is no use to answer because it is like the problem of using lingua franca. So because you see the previous question as not so much as a problem, but rather than advantages. So what do you think the more effective way of using lingua franca, like the effective using English or using Bahasa Indonesia for the like the solutions to the problems in the lingua franca? Because I think there are many people using the lingua franca. I think in Indonesia here, not so many people are using Indonesia. They use like Sundanese, for example, people like in the Sundanese and people from Japanese. They don't speak like Bahasa Indonesia, but rather than their own languages. So how do you see this? How do you see the solution of so people use the lingua franca?
What so people use lingua franca? What can you repeat
So like the
the question?
solution of the problem so that so like the effective way people can be used the lingua franca. So for example, people like from Sundanese, from Japanese in here, they pretty much don't speak with Bahasa Indonesia but with their own languages. So how do we convince people to use the lingua franca?
All right. Apa ya? I think yeah, I mean for some apa ya, for the Sundanese case, I mean people who lives in West Java region, especially for the native, yeah. I mean the people who was born in West Java, they are most likely speaking Sundanese rather than speaking Indonesian language. But let's say that Indonesian is being they have, I mean they receive some lesson in Indonesian learning, language learning. So I think it will apa ya, it will they will use Indonesia when they speak with people from another province. Yeah, it is more it will be applied in that situation, that kind of situation when people from maybe from Bandung then meet people from Jakarta, and then they will, yeah, especially they will speak in Indonesia, but with, yeah, this one accent. And this is the most effective way using Indonesian language. But if the case is someone who never going somewhere from West, from Java, yeah, from his hometown, I think uh, yeah, people can learn now. People can learn, people can listen another language from, yeah, let's say YouTube or TikTok. I mean, yeah, nowadays there are so many content related to the language, so it's not going to be difficult for native Sundanese people who never going outside his hometown to speak Indonesia, because when they listen or when they watch television, maybe they will hear the Indonesian is being spoken by the speaker of the content. And then for English, nah, English, yeah, when I see Indonesian, especially from my classmate, when they meet a foreigner, as any foreigner, my friends or especially also me, it's more excited to speak in English rather to help the foreigner to learn Indonesian. So that's why it's the different cultural difference between Indonesian or Southeast Asian people with, I mean, non-Indonesian people with like so Korea, Japanese, Chinese, and maybe Thailand, Vietnam, where they speak English is they are I mean they speak English is not as good as Indonesian. I mean, yeah, because maybe that's why they are more comfortable with using their own language rather than us speaking in our native language. So yeah, it's connected to the to the culture, yeah, to the culture. I mean, I never find ya banyak sih sebenarnya. I mean, there are so many Gen Z students who proud speaking Indonesia, but it's not as much as students who proud speaking in English. So that's why it connects to the culture itself. If you compare to like Japanese, they are very proud with their language, and then if a foreigner come to their country and then the foreigner is not able to speak in Japanese, ya mau nggak mau pendatang itu yang bakal belajar bahasa Jepang ya rather than the Japanese learning the English. Yeah, it's different situation with our people ya. So that's my answer. I think I hope it answered the question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. So, do you believe that culture and different societies, different people will, like use the lingua franca a different way? And I think that, yeah, I agree with your answers because of not uh, uh, not like really proud Indonesian to the language different to like Japanese or other culture. So I think that's it from our questions. Thank you very much for your participations, Mr. Adit. Yeah,
Okay,
it was
Mr.
very helpful. Okay, for the closing, I will review a little bit about the material. So, lingua franca is a common language based on Mr. Adit's explanation. It had a lot of advantages. It mostly used in business case, education, and other professional environment. Also, it will not lag behind the native language, but also more like advantage rather than weakness. And of course, English as a lingua franca will not make our native language weaker, but rather we enrich the language. Also Mr. Adit mentions about culture as a how people use the lingua franca, how different societies use the lingua franca. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Adit. We really appreciate your help for this interview. Okay, I'm Fikri Bayaki, and my friends Ninisha and Fadila will thank you for this interview. We will close the interview. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, everyone.
Salam, good morning.